All right, these are the three problems for Notes 101, and we're talking about circles. We've done a couple of pages of notes on circles, so I'm going to jump right into question number 18. It says to find the center and the radius. So this particular problem is written in standard form. Love that for us. So the center here is going to be the ordered pair, let's see, 2, 7. And that comes from this H value right here of 2 and this K value right here of 7. Now you do want to be careful. If those signs weren't negative, you would need to swap the signs to turn them into the actual values for the center. All right. And then your radius comes from this part. Whoops, let me grab a highlighter here. This part of the function, the equation, and that is for radius squared, or r squared is equal to 25. So if I take the square root here, you're going to get r is equal to just 5. We don't know the units here, but that's the center and the radius. So those are the two pieces of information you were asked for in question number 18. Now, question number 19 is asking you the exact same information. I would like to know what is the center and the radius. However, I did not give you an equation in the same format. And so what's going to happen here is we need to take this equation that's in general form and I want to turn it into standard form. So what we're going to have to do here is something called completing the square. Now, completing the square is a very specific process. And it is not the four-sided figure that's geometry, 4 sides all congruent and the, 4 right angles. What I'm talking about for completing the square is I want to turn this x squared term and this negative 6x term into something with x squared. That's the completing the square piece. Okay, so we're going to do this for x and we're going to do this for y. So here's the process. I want to get my x terms together. And then I'm going to leave myself a little blank spot that I am going to fill in to complete the square. I'm going to collect my two y terms, y squared here minus 8y, and again, leave myself a little blank spot here to complete the square. Now, the other piece that I need to take care of, and give me 1 second while I rotate these things, move this down just a touch. I'm going to move this constant term to the other side of my equation. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 20 from both sides. So this is going to equal negative 20. Now, as I said, what I'm trying to do is to create something here squared and then something here squared. So this is going to be y, that's going to be x. And what I want to do is figure out what number can go here that will create this minus 6 in the middle here. And then whatever number this is, I've got to figure out how that goes here. So what ends up happening is you're going to take this middle x term, so this coefficient here of negative 6, you are going to chop it in half and you're going to square it. That's the number that completes the square for here. So that's going to be, let's see, negative 6 chopped in half is negative 3. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. Now, one quick thing is when we add 9 to the left side, I need to mirror that on the right side. We're going to keep the balance of the equation going. That hasn't changed. So plus 9 over here. Now, in terms of factoring this, okay, so I'm going to take this little x piece squared and just slide it down. Actually, I'll do the same thing for the y term. So I have a little space. All right, so the idea here is when we go to factor this, what I'm thinking of for these x terms is what numbers multiply to positive 9 and add up to negative 6. Well, if I split the x, so what numbers there work? Well, let's see. If I take negative 3 times negative 3, that number kind of looks familiar to me. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Awesome. And negative 3 plus negative 3 makes that negative 6, which then becomes x minus 3 quantity squared. That's the completing the square piece. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing for y. I'm going to take that middle y term, middle y coefficient, so negative 8, chop it in half, and then square it. So negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is positive 16. Keep the balance of the equation, so add 16, add 16. So do that to the right side as well. So then factor-wise, right? If I go to break this up, I'm looking for what multiplies to positive 16 and adds up to negative 8. Well, split the y here. Let's try negative 4 and negative 4. All right, negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, and then negative 4 plus negative 4 is that negative 8. Absolutely works. So negative 4. And then to complete it, right, to complete the equation, because you completed the square now, but to complete the equation, let's go ahead and add up this mess over here. So let's see what we got here. Let's see, 19 and 16 is 25. 25 minus 20 would just be 5. All right, so after all this hard work, right, we want to pull the center, and I want to know what my radius is. So let's talk center here. That's going to be the point 3, 4, right? Here's my h value, here's my k value, love that. Now radius, not that it's difficult, but we got to be careful because it's not 5. All right, so your radius squared is equal to 5. So when we take the square root, you're going to tell me that the radius is the square root of 5. And it's okay to have numbers like that, right? I'm not asking you to graph this. I just want to know what the radius is. All right, so there's the 2 pieces of information I was looking for. And then we're going to do it again because I already know what question number 20 is. I'm asking again for the center and the radius of a circle. This is not in standard form, so we want to put it in standard form. All right, so I'm going to get x squared minus 12x. I'm a visual person, so I leave that little space there for myself. And then I've got y squared plus 8y. Again, visual nature of myself. I'm going to go ahead, whoops, leave a little space here. And then let's see what I got here. I'm going to move that 4 to the other side. So this is going to equal 4, right? Add 4 to both sides. Okay, so for x, I'm going to take negative 12, chop it in half, and square it. So it's going to be negative 6 squared, which is positive 36. Add that to both sides, please and thank you. I'll go ahead and do y at the same time. So let's see, 8 over 2, that's going to be 4. 4 squared is a positive 16. So this is going to be, let's see, x minus 12 squared plus, okay, so this is going to be x minus 6 squared. And then if I do y, so plus y plus 4 squared. And this is going to equal, let's see, 4 plus 36 is 40. 40 plus 16 would be 56. Sure, we'll go with that. So let's see, I want a center. That is going to be the point, and this is where you want to be careful. So this 6 is my h value, so it's going to be 6, comma. However, my k value, there's a weird thing that happens here because of the plus sign. In the actual standard form equation, I'm going to write this off to the side. It's x, whoops, try that again. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And because this is minus, but this is not, you actually have to change the sign to a negative 4. All right, so just be careful about that. And then as far as the radius goes, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Delete that. There we go. As far as the radius goes, the radius is not 56, right? 56 represents the radius squared. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides, right? Radius is equal to, well, let's see. I don't know what the square root of 56 is, but let's see if I can break that down. So let's see, 56, if I take out a 2, that's going to be, what would that be, 28? And then if I take out a 2 there, that's 14. If I take out a 2, that's 2 and 7. All right, so yeah, that looks good. So that's going to get me 2 times 2 times 2 times 7. And because we're talking about a square root, right, we're looking for a pair here. So the pair of 2's gets to escape the root. So that's 2, whoops, right with a pen. So that's a 2. And then what doesn't pair up, we're going to multiply back together. So 2 times 7 here stays under the root. So your radius here is going to be 2 root 14. Okay, so in this case, we actually had to deal with that square root and simplify it, which is fine. Things I've been asking you to do for a while. Okay, so this is going to be the end of Notes 101. There were 3 questions on circles, this whole concept of completing this square. As always, folks, let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and I'll see you in the next one.